Today we're looking at Chapter 5, Level 2, which begins on page 299. As you may recall, we have provided files called chapter files, and in Chapter 5 you can use the same files they're using in the explanatory part of the book. We're in Level 2, and we want to take the Level 2 one at the start. I'm not going to work all the way through it, but I want to show you the two main functions we'll be dealing with today based on that. So I have called mine MESCO Tennis Orders Level 2 Start. It has an order sheet where we're going to be putting in formulas. This is very much like the steps to success that we will do in a minute. And then it has several tables to look up things from. Here is a description table and an item number and a price per item. Then there's a discount table that says, what if you order this many things, then you should get a discount. And then there's a shipping table that says standard shipping. We've got 5 different regions and 4 different methods of shipping: truck, rail, air, and boat, and different costs per pound of shipping. Our two formulas today, I'm going to open a new sheet here. The two formulas that we're looking at today are the lookup. Last time we did VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. The lookup function actually has a very nice thing that it can do, in that you can say look up something in any row or column anywhere, and then tell me the matching thing in some other row or column anywhere. So that's the lookup function, and here's how it works. For instance, let us say we are looking at some costs for different things. Let's say we want to look up something. Let's say we want to look up a description and see what the item number is. Okay. Well, the description is in the second column and the item number is in the first column. A VLOOKUP would mean we'd have to look it up in the first column and give me back the second column. But if this is the way the table has to be and we don't want to mess up the table, we can use the lookup function to do it in any order. So for instance, here's a grommet set. So if I wanted to look up grommet set, if that's what I want to look up, and I want you to give me back the item number, and here's the description, I couldn't use a VLOOKUP to do it in this table because, remember, the VLOOKUP has to be looking up in the first column. But I can use the lookup function. Let's find that. Lookup. There's the lookup function. And the one we want to use, there are 2 different versions of it. We want to use the one that has the vectors in it. A vector is simply another name for one column or one row. A vector. It's more complicated than that, but that'll be good enough for now. So we want to use that, and the first thing it says is find the lookup value. What do you want to search for? Well, that would be this grommet set, wouldn't it? And so I'd say grommet set, and then the lookup vector, it says that's a range that contains only one row or one column of text. Where do I want to look that up? I want to look it up somewhere in this column, don't I? And I'm going to make that absolute. And the result vector says that's a range that contains only one row or column, and it has to be the same size as the lookup vector. In other words, it's going to look here and it's going to say, where do I find that? I find it in the third spot. So give me back what's in the third spot in this other result vector. In other words, I can reverse those columns and it still works with the lookup function. So when I hit OK, that should give me the number 3, shouldn't it? Why did it give me the number 10? Because the lookup function only does ranges. It does not do exact matches. So let's write that down. Lookup function only works with ranges. In other words, it's the equivalent to the true part in a VLOOKUP. It does not work not with exact match, which in the VLOOKUP would have been a false type. Let's move that over. And if that's true, then what has to happen? These things need to be sorted ascending. So I am going to take this whole table, I'm going to sort it ascending by this middle column because that's my lookup column. So I'm going to sort A to Z. And now notice, where is grommet? Grommet is in the 10th row. It's row 11, but we've got a header row. That's why it gave me the number 10, because it said grommet is the 10th thing alphabetically, and it went down to row 10 and gave me number 10. Okay? But now notice when I put them in alphabetical order, now it said, okay, this is in row 10. I'll go down to row 10 and give you what's there, and that's the number 3. So when you use the lookup function, you cannot do an exact match, and the lookup vector has to be in ascending order. Now, here's another thing that's really cool about the lookup function. We said that it could be any row or column as long as it matches the length of this. So let's take this row, this column, I'm going to invert it. I'm going to paste special and transpose it. So now this column 27564 is now this row. Does that make sense? I've just turned it sideways. Let me make those columns a little bit smaller so we can see more of it. All right. Now this matches this here. So I'm going to do this lookup function again, only I'm going to use this as the lookup vector and this as the result vector. They can be different directions and they can be anywhere. They don't have to be next to each other. That's a beautiful thing. So I'm going to say equals lookup. The first thing it wants to know, we're using this lookup value vector vector. And so my lookup value is still grommet set. And my lookup vector is still this, isn't it? That's where I'm looking up grommet set. But now my result vector is right here. My result vector is right here, and it says I'm looking up grommet. It's the 10th thing in this column, so I'm going to give you the 10th thing in this row, which is number 3. The lookup function is very, very valuable when you are looking up something in one place and you need to return a value that's to the left of it or even somewhere else. They have to be the same length. Column or row doesn't matter. Now we could go the other way, couldn't we? What if I said, let's look up the number 8. Let's look up the number 8. I could look it up here and tell it to give me back the number that matched it here, but I'd have to have these things sorted ascending, wouldn't I? And I don't want to take the time to do that, but we could do that. We could do that. In fact, let's do that. I'm going to save this, and we'll do another function where we sort these in order. And I'm going to take these and put them here. And notice now we get that number 10 for grommet set again, because it found it here as the 10th spot alphabetically and it went to the 10th place. So this formula is not working anymore. But let's reverse it and say, look it up here and give me the result from here. So I'm just going to flip those around. I'm going to say look it up in the horizontal thing, and of course it's not going to find grommet set in the horizontal thing, is it? We're going to have to look up a number in the horizontal thing. So I'll look up number 5, and it says, oh, the 5th thing over here is XO racket graphite. So that lookup function is very, very flexible. The only negative thing is you can't do an exact match, which means you have to have your lookup vector in ascending order. And it could be a row in ascending order, or it could be a column in ascending order. Notice, once it finds this in the lookup vector, it says, oh, I found that in the 5th row. So I'm going to give you the 5th thing in this table. If these were not alphabetical, they're not, are they? But it's given me the 5th thing. Okay? The result vector does not have to be alphabetized, but the lookup vector does. So that's the lookup function. Very, very handy. The other function we're going to look at is called the index function. Index function. The index function is very, very cool. It allows you to look in a row and a column and tell me what's at the intersection of it. I'm going to go to my Insert Function button. I'm going to choose Index. And again, this function has 2 different versions. You can use the one with the array, or you can use the one with the reference. We're going to use the one with the reference. The index function says the first thing you need is a reference to one or more cell ranges. We're going to use this with multiple ranges in a minute, but with just one range, let's say we wanted to look up a region and a shipping method and tell me the price per pound. So we will say The reference would be this stuff. The row number would be the row number of this stuff, not the row number out here, but this would be the first row of the stuff. This would be the fifth row of the stuff. This would be the first column of the stuff. This would be the fourth column of the stuff. And if you only have one area, you don't need this area number. So let's put our numbers somewhere. We'll call this the region, and we'll call this the shipping method, and we'll specify those two things in these yellow cells. That's not a bad idea to highlight the cells that the user is supposed to fill in, and usually it's nice to put borders around them as well. So let's say we wanted region 4 and method 3. Region 4 and method 3. It should go down to the fourth row, go over to the third column, and it should give us that number. So we're just looking up something in a table saying, find it on the row, find it on the column, and tell me what's there at the intersection. So let's write our index formula. We want the reference version of it. The reference is this. That's our area or areas, one or more cell ranges. We're just going to start with one area. So that's our area. And now it says, what row number do you want? Well, the region matches the row number, doesn't it? Region 4 is the fourth row in there. So this is my row number. That's what I want to look up. What column number do I want? That's this number, isn't it? I want the third column in that table. And now the area number I don't have to specify. Notice it says, if you give me this stuff, I'm going to give you 2.25 back, which is the shipping rate that we wanted for region 4, method 3. So if I click OK, it says 225. And that's exactly right, isn't it? Let's try changing those numbers. How about if we had region 2, method 2? Region 2, method 2. That should be this number, shouldn't it? So that index function allows you to look at a table and say, tell me the row and the column, and I'll give you what's at the intersection. But wait, there's more. Notice when we looked at that function, there is a fourth possible argument or parameter. If I pull that up on our, notice it says you could have more than one area that you're looking up things in. And so you could tell me which area you want. You could specify more than one reference area up here and then tell me which one you want here. Let's see how that works. Let's put a third thing. We've got 3 shipping methods, don't we? We've got standard, preferred, and most preferred. Let's say standard is let's call this standard, etc. And area 1 would be standard, area 2 would be preferred, area 3 would be most preferred. In other words, we've got some good customers, and when they order large amounts of things, we want to help them because we've made an agreement with the shipping company. They'll charge us less, and we pass that on to our customer. So let's say we wanted the most preferred method. Actually, I think I'll go with the middle one so that it's easier to see on the screen. So I'm going to copy this down and say, what if we wanted that second preferred method? So we want to modify this a little bit. This 12 cents was in the first method, wasn't it? Because we only specified one method. I'm sorry, we only specified one reference area. We only specified one reference area. I think I'll rename this reference area. We have 3 reference areas: top, middle, bottom. Let's look at our index function again. Only this time we're still going to use the reference version of it. And this time, notice in the reference it says it's a reference to one or more cell ranges. We don't have to stick with just one range. So let's pick 3 different ranges. Here's one range, absolute, and then we separate the ranges with commas. Here's our second range, the preferred method, absolute, comma, and here's our third range. They could be in different places. Here's our third range, and we'll make that absolute. Notice now if I click in the second one, the row number that I want is still the region, isn't it? That would be the row number that I would want. So that's the region. Notice it says I'm not sure what value to put here. You have to enclose these in parentheses. I thought the wizard might do it for us by ourselves, but it did not. It still says a value, maybe because we haven't specified the area yet. Let me take those parens out and see if it'll give it to us when we specify the area. The column number is still the method, isn't it? But now the area number is one of these, area 1, area 2, area 3, in this order. So I'm going to specify area 2, and now too many arguments for this function. Okay, it did not put the parentheses in for us. So we have to put, if you have multiple ranges, you have to enclose them in parentheses. So here are our multiple reference ranges, and we have to have them in a separate set of parentheses. And then we have our row number, our column number, our area number. You can see it there a little more easily. And now when I press enter, it says I went to area 2, I went to row 2 and column 2. What if I change that to area 3? Well, it should go to area 3, row 2, column 2, and that's 10 cents. It's not formatted as currency. Area 3, column 2, row 2. Now this is a little bit hard to figure out what's going on with those ranges like that, isn't it? We would be better off if we would name those ranges and name them using the area number. So I'm going to select that first range and I'm going to call it ship 1. I'm going to name this second range ship 2. And I'm going to name this third range ship 3. We select the range, click in the name box, give it a name. Has to start with an alphabetic character, cannot have special characters or spaces in it. So we've got ship 1, ship 2, and ship 3. And now if I fix my formula to say, instead of these absolute references, I'm going to call them ship 1, ship 2, and ship 3. Ship 1, comma, ship 2, comma, ship 3. Notice those show up in the drop downs here because they're recognized as named ranges. If you'll recall, named ranges are absolute references. So we should get the same answer of the 10 cents, but this looks a lot easier to figure out what's going on, doesn't it? And if we wanted to know, well, what are those ranges, we could just go over here and say, here's ship 1. Show me what ship 1 is. Well, it's right there. Show me what ship 2 is. It's right there. Show me what ship 3 is. It's down here. So very, very handy. The index function not only allows you to search a single range, tell me the row and the column number you want and I'll give you what's at the intersection, but it allows you to search multiple ranges and specify which range you want to search.